I'm going to be painting with acrylic today. I have an 8x10 canvas here. I have my paints all laid out. I'm going to start with liquid with white gesso. It's basically a liquidy white paint with a binder in it. Your canvas, when you buy them, it's already covered with them. But by putting on the liquid gesso, it allows your paints to move, and it also lightens your color of your paints. I'm going to start with the sky area. So I'm only coming, not quite halfway down. Almost. You don't want to ever split your canvas quite and perfectly in half. It just doesn't look right. You want to kind of go, just short of that, or at least maybe a third. All right, I'm picking up some phthalo blue, and I'm starting up at the top. And these are little X strokes. And then I'm going to touch a little bit of the alizarin crimson, same dirty brush, and come down just below, adding some color. Just continuing with those little X strokes. I'm just going to I got paper towel, just going to wipe some of the excess paint off. I'm going to come back in, pick up a little more of the alizarin, get a little more of the bright red. I'm going to wash my brush this time. And this time I'm going to touch a little bit of my yellow. And right along the horizon. And I'm picking up a little bit of the red up here. I clean my brush this time. Wipe it. Then I'm going to pick up some of the white gesso and coming back in. And I'm going to start at the lightest. I want to start down here where the yellow is. And want to kind of stroke that across. And then I'm going to work my way up. Just literally blending the colors together. And finally right across the top. All right, I'm going to clean that brush. Make sure, working with acrylics, that you clean the brush, or at least leave them sitting in water. You don't want that paint to dry. I do have a mister brush, misting bottle. It's just plain water. It just kind of, you can mist your canvas. And by doing that, you can keep the canvas a little damper. Right now I've just got a big brush, and I'm just kind of lightly stroking across. And you can keep stroking until it's super, super smooth. You decide on how smooth you want that. All right, I'm now going back in. This time I'm going to pick up some of my more of the white. And if you have phthalo white, it's a heavier white, you can pick it up. And right now I'm just gonna, since the sky I'm gonna kind of streak some clouds in. You can use the white gesso if you don't have it. But I'm just kind of streaking some clouds in. I'm gonna touch just the very corner with some alizarin, come into that white and come in through here. And lightly, very lightly. I don't want to lose those. I'm just gonna kind of pull those clouds out, maybe a little bit down. And I'm gonna leave it at that. We just got some clouds streaking through. All right, I'm cleaning that brush. I am gonna pick up my palette knife. I am going to mix some of my alizarin with some of my blues, my phthalo blues. Mix them over here. And you get sort of a lavender purple, but it's dark, dark, dark. And you can make this more towards the red or more towards the blue. I'm going more towards the blue. And I'm going to pick up a little on my palette knife, and I'm using more or less the tip of the, and I'm forming a little bit of mountain. Pull it down, and then I'm going to turn it sideways. And I'm basically concerned with the tops of the mountains more than anything else. And there's another one. And you want to make them different heights. You don't want them all the same exact height. There's one over here. Let's pick up a little more color. And let's just sort of bring that off to the edge. We'll do the same here. Now I'm going to pick up some of the excess paint off of it. I'm just scraping it off, but I'm not touching the tops. I want those tops to be fairly well formed. My big brush again, and I'm going to pick up some of my white, and I'm going to, this is my white gesso. I'm just kind of putting it down low in the bottom of the mountains and just pulling that down a little bit. So then I'm going to take, now I still got some on here. Most of it I wiped off on here, but I'm going to take it and pull down from that mountain and lightly do the other side, mainly on where the light's coming from, and lightly just, I want this side darker. I'm going to touch that, pull that down, and then kind of pull that out. All right, I'm going to clean that brush. And since this is a small canvas, I'm actually going to use a smaller brush. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to kind of do little X strokes at the bottom, kind of mist that out. Basically, I'm forming mist at the bottom. This is going to be our separator from our mountains and our land. Okay, you can leave the mountains pretty much like that. You can just kind of tap up them a little bit to do some blending. And, or if you want, you can actually put some highlights on those. I'm going to tap the other side a little bit. I want to keep that side a little bit darker. So you can have these nice purple mountains in the background. If you want, you can take a little titanium white and pull it out and put snow on it if you want. But I like them the way they are. I'm just going to leave them that way. I'm now going to start building land below that. So let me grab one of my smaller brushes here. It's just a flat brush. I'm going to mix into that mountain color, that purple. I'm going to pick up some greens. Sap green, vermilion green. Vermilion green is a little more of the, on the blue side, where sap green's a little warmer color. And I'm literally just tapping it in so my brushes are all wide open. And I'm going to come along the bottom and starting here, and let me get a little more blue in there. In fact, I think I'm going to do just a slight touch of the white gesso. There we go. I just wanted that a little more towards the cool side. And we can And we got a little land there. And I'm gonna kind of put a little below. This I'm doing a little lighter. These are gonna end up being reflections down in the water. I'm not putting it real heavy. Okay, I'm gonna take my big brush. Well, here, I got my nice flat one here. That'll work. I'm gonna touch and pull. If you got your big brush, you can do that with it as well. Mine was still soaking in water. And then lightly go across. Those are gonna end up being some reflections. Now, I'm gonna go back into my greens. Add some more green to that blue-green mix I had. This time I'm pulling the brush flat through. I'm pulling it flat through. I know my palette's pretty dirty, but pulling it straight through like that. And what I want is that sharp, chiseled edge. Here I'm gonna touch and then back and forth. Now you can do this with a fan brush. This is working good, and I'm coming down. Pull it through again, get it nice and sharp. Let's get that top a little better. And we're gonna put a second one right there. And back and forth, it's just that little back and forth motion. And we have a second tree there. In fact, that works so nice. Let's do a big one over here. We're gonna, and back and forth. And if you need to, go back, pick up some more paint. And that one, being a bigger tree, it's gonna come down further. All right. In fact, we can even have a small one right there. That can be further in the background there. All right, so we've got our mountains here. We've got our sky in. We've got a few trees. I'm gonna go back to my large brush. It's nice and clean. I'm gonna pick up some more of the white gesso. And this time I'm gonna do the lower part here, just underneath where all that green is. And while I got that, I'm going to touch and pull a little bit. Pick up some of that green, just lighten it up. And then you can kind of lift up a little bit. I want to tap in, where's my greens? I'm going to tap into my greens. I still got the white gesso on, I'm just tapping the edges. Just got the very edges. And just kind of tapping along. That's where our land lays right there. Okay, so I can wash that brush. If your paints, if this is still dry, if you got a real warm room, you can mist it to keep it damp. All right, back to my brush that I still have the greens on. Get it nice and flat. Maybe in here, oh, we're just gonna do a few, maybe a couple evergreens in here. Nothing big. And you can even give it a little highlight there. We can pick up some of our little yellows, maybe a touch of the white gesso. Just kind of lighten that mix up. You can even go in and tap some few highlights in there. We can even do a few highlights on this tree. Nothing, don't want it, this is way in the background. I don't want a lot of highlights. They're way far away, so they're hard to see. Okay, I'm gonna bring that across there. And that makes it look like reflections back there. I'm gonna take my knife and pick up a little white gesso on the edges, just on the edge, and kind of cut a water line across there. And that separates our tree line from the water. Okay, I'm gonna go back into my greens. Just tap that brush, and I'm gonna just start laying some land here, something for these trees to stand on. Right here. All right. And with my wider brush, I'm going to pick up some of my blues. And I'm going to tap in a little bit of the white gesso. I don't want it as quite as super dark, but I'm going to pull from the edges inward. Not going all the way across, almost to the center. And this side, same thing. Kind of leaving it a little open in here. I'm going to clean that brush. Nice and clean. I'm going to pick up a touch of the alizarin just on the corner, right in here. Put a little bit of that pink in there. Because you've got that in the sky, it's going to reflect down. I'm also going to go pick up a touch of that mountain color. And right in here, you're going to start seeing a little bit of that mountain color reflected down. Maybe right there. I think I'll pick up a little more of that alizarin right through here. Yeah, I like that color. Make our painting nice and colorful. Okay, I'm going to clean the brush. I'm going to pick up my big brush. Make sure it's clean. I'm going to make sure it's fairly dry. And then I'm going to start here and pull across. Along this bottom, I can bring that blue right across since it's nice and blue up there. And you can still see some of the purples from the mountain reflected, some of the nice reds and alizarin color. So we've got our water. I go back in to my greens. Right in here. And this time I'm going to bring some bushes up. And I'm going to bring that out a little bit. And then we're going to have some down here. I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to pull some of that down. And then lightly go across. There's our reflections. All right. Let's go across there a little bit. All right. So we've got our land here. We've got our reflections in the water. We're going to go in and I'm going to start picking up some of the different colors. I'm going to start, and I still got some green on my brush. I'm going to start picking up some of the yellows. And I'm just tapping so the brush is wide open. And here where these bushes are, and if it's not coming off, add some water. Just touch into the water. Come back, and you can see how I can add some of that. You can even add a little bit of white to that, your white gesso or your titanium. And here we're going to add a nice yellow bush Maybe I'm going to tap into my bright red. Maybe we'll have a nice red bush out here. Something like that. Pick up some of the yellows. Maybe over here. We've got something growing here that's pretty bright. Back to my yellows. I add a little white gesso to it. Put something out here. We can even add a little into the water. We can bring a little bit of that down. And then lightly go across. Down here we can put a nice bright one. And a couple in the water. Let's go back into my bright reds. Maybe there's one here. It's in the water. Back to my greens. A little bit of that right out of there, and I'm going to go back into my greens. I'm going to add some of my white gesso to it. So green and white. And let's get a little more. A little more of the green in there. It's a nice light one. Some yellows into that green. Let's go back to just plain yellow. Tap my water, loosen that up a little bit. Maybe here. Oh, there we go. Nice bright yellow one. A little bit into the water. And I think I like those bright red right here. And once we got that, we're going to come with our big brush, lightly, very lightly, just pull that down, go across. Over here, we're going to have a little bit of reflection in the water. Let's go wipe that brush off a little bit. Just pick up plain yellow, maybe the white gesso in it. Lighten it up a little bit. Oh, nice bright yellow one out there. Some reflections in the water. Let's bring that. I like that. Nice. Give a nice bright one here. And we can do the same thing. Pull that down very lightly and go across. Get that color in the water. Okay, I'm going to put that brush into some water. I'm going to mix up a little of my bright red with some of my greens. If you have a brown, you can use that, but green and red makes a nice brown. And I'm going to pick some of that up with my knife. And then right along here, just going to pull some land in. And I'm going to go pick up some, mix a little bit of white in with that, pick some up, and then lightly just come across. A little brown there. I'm going to take my brush, go into a little bit of the greens, a little bit of the yellows, and kind of tap along there, bring some grasses down a little bit. Just kind of, so it blends it back into the background. Now I'm going to take my knife, pick up my white on the edge again, just that little line of white, and right along here, we're going to put in some water lines. And you can see. Keep those water lines fairly straight. So, okay, we've got the water coming down. I'm thinking here, I'm gonna put a little, maybe a little water line coming through here. Maybe there was some rocks or something in there that the water sort of bubbled up a little bit. So I'll take my brush right here with a little bit of yellow, just sort of a little bit of green. Maybe put something in there. Okay, so we've got a nice little, I think I need another little water line right here. Let's get a little more white on that brush. Right here. There. So we got a nice little, and I think we need some highlights on this one. I think I'm gonna go in and pick up some of the yellows. A little bit of the white. Just so lighten that up. Pull it through so I got that sharp edge. And I'm gonna add a little bit of green to that. So I got a little bit of green to it. And I'm just gonna kind of bring that down. Add some highlights to it. Yeah, I think I like that better. So we've got a nice little lake. We've had practice with some of the reflections. You can even take and that brown we mixed up, you can take and load your brush up with that. Add just a touch of water to it and drag it through one side through the white, one side through that. If you want, you can add a stone here. You can just kind of do a little curve like that. And you got some stones coming along that shoreline, maybe a couple here. I'm going to add just a touch of blue to that brown by adding that darker color. I don't want much. I don't want blue rocks. Just want to darken it so it looks almost black. So we've got some stones along the shoreline, and we've got our nice sky blowing across. I'm going to clean my brush, and let me grab my little twiggy brush. My twiggy brush is just a little liner brush. I'm going to wet it. I'm going to go into that browns. Add a little green, a little blue to it. Anything that's dark, alizarin, crimson. Just mix all my darks. I get sort of almost a black. And I kind of roll my brush. And you can take and just kind of get the excess off. I lay my finger on it. And that's what's nice about acrylics. It does dry fast. And there's one bird coming in. There's two. Oh, let's give them a third. We got a couple little birds flying in. I'm gonna wash that brush. I'm gonna go into my bright reds. Get it nice and loose. And we're gonna sign this one. And I think we have a finished painting. I hope you enjoyed that one.